بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد. Alhamdulillah, we're on the 8th chapter of Kitab Al-Tahara, which is Bab At-Tayammum, or the dry ablution. Tayammum literally means to intend for or go in a certain direction. Linguistically, in the Sharia point of view, it's basically the action of hitting the earth as a replacement for water. And the proof is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِن كُنتُم مَرْضَى أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ أَوْ جَاءَ أَحَدٌ مِنكُم مِّنَ الْغَائِطِ أَوْ لَمَّسْتُمُ النِّسَاءَ فَلَمْ تَجِدُوا مَاءً فَتَيَمَّمُوا صَعِيدًا طَيِّبًا. Basically, if you're traveling or if you are sick and you've done the things that require ablution or ghusl and you can't find any water, that you should make tayammum. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, وَجُرِتْ لِي الْأَرْضُ مَسْجِدًا وَطَهُورًا, that the earth has been made, this is specific for the Ummah of Muhammad ﷺ, the earth has been made as a masjid and a means of purification, right, the earth itself. Also, it's ijma' of the ulama, the scholars, that it's permissible to use, obviously, based upon the Quran and the Sunnah. The description, he starts, وَصِفَتَهُ أو وصفه أن يضرب بيده على الصعيد الطيب التراب الطاهر ضربة واحدة فيمسح بهما وجهه وكفيه. The characteristics, you hit the earth with both your hands, right, or some type of soil or dirt. صعيدا طيبا, the scholars say that, some scholars specifically say it has to be dirt, dust or dirt specifically, and other scholars say that anything above the earth is considered صعيدا طيبا. That's part of the earth and above, on the surface of the earth. So if you're in a mountain, for example, and there's not dust, you can hit the stone. Or even some scholars say, if you're in Antarctica or the Arctic Circle, and there's only ice, you can hit the ice, as it means if water would be dangerous to use, for example. And that's, wallahu alam, the stronger opinion, that if it's anything that basically on the surface of the earth that's part or from the earth, you can use as for tayammum. The courage is that you hit it with one time and you wipe over your face and you wipe over your hands. لقول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم لعمار إنما كان يكفيك هكذا وضرب يديه الأرض فمسحها. And the proof is that he said to Ammar, Ammar, he had to make ghusl and he didn't have any water, so he rolled around in the earth, in the dust, to cover himself with dust. And the Prophet ﷺ said that it was sufficient for you to just hit the earth once and wipe yourself with it. So the scholars derive from that to make tayammum, you just hit the earth once and you can wipe your face and wipe your hands with that one hit. You'll find other narrations that some scholars say you can hit one for the face and one for the hands. The hands, it's up to here, because there's another narration that says kafay, or both his hands. The kaf is these parts of the hand, not the whole arm. There's a weak narration, and I think the Shafi'i madhab, they say that you can do the whole arm. But in general, one hit for the face and the hands. If you do, two hits, one for the face, one for the hands, it's okay as well. Wallahu a'lam. وَإِن تَيَمَّمْ بِأَكْثَرَ مِنْ ضَرْبَةٍ أَوْ مَسَحَ أَكْثَرَ جَازَ. And he says that if you do with more than one hit or more than one wipe, it's permissible. And that's the madhab of Imam Ahmed, rahimahullah ta'ala. He used to, if he found multiple narrations of different ahadith, he would say that you can do it all different ways in his madhab. That's why his madhab basically has one of the most narrations, upon him, because his madhab would be the hadith basically. So if he found different narrations that described it in different ways, he would make all those ways part of his madhab, as long as the hadith was authentic. So that's why you'll find some narrations that says, two hits or one hit, and he just to get the blessings of doing all different ways, he'll mention that in his madhab it's permissible to do either of the ways that were narrated to us. You had a question about that?
Yeah, so when making tayammum, same rulings apply as far as intention. You need to have intention that you're gonna, purify yourself.
Yeah, we're gonna discuss that now, inshallah. Yeah, so the conditions or the shurut of tayammum are 4 main conditions. إحداها العجز عن استعمال الماء. The first one is that you are unable to use water. إما لعدمه, either because of its absence, Like after absence, meaning that you've tried to find water and there's no available water for you, like in anywhere nearby that you would make it in time for salat to wash with, right? But the requirement is that you have to actually have looked for it or made an effort to see if there's water around. Once you're sure there's no water around, no water available, then that condition is fulfilled, that you're able to make tayammum with a lack of water. But you can't just be like, you look around the room here, oh, I don't see any water, and then, okay, I'm going to make tayammum. Actually have to try to make a concerted effort that you're looking around, the vicinity around you, if there's availability of water or not. If the whole vicinity, within reasonable distance is not available water, then that condition is met, right? So that's the one reason. If you can't find any water, no water available whatsoever, أو لخوف ضرر من استعماله لمرض أو برد شديد, that you fear harm if you use it, either due to sickness or severe cold. And it's actually mentioned in the ayah, one of the ayats of tayammum. There's two ayats of tayammum. The other one that we mentioned, the other one is وإن كنتم مرضى أو على سفر أو جاء أحد منكم من الغائط أو لمستم النساء فلم تجدوا ماء فتيمموا صعيدا طيبا فامسحوا بوجوهكم وأيديكم منه ما يريد الله ليجعل عليكم من حرج ولكن يريد يطهركم. If you are sick or upon traveling, or you've come from using the restroom or you touched had sexual relations with the women and you don't find water, make tayammum sa'idan tayyiban, which we said the pure earth. فَامْسَحُوا بِوُجُوهِكُمْ, wipe your faces and your hands, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, right, from that earth. And then He says, Allah does not want hardship for you, but He wants to purify you. So there's no, the hardship in the deen is removed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like there shouldn't be a burden upon a Muslim that he can't take. So therefore, if he fears harm coming to him, that's considered a hardship, right? And the Prophet ﷺ said, "La darara wa la darar." There's no harm or harming, right? Or reciprocating of harm. So if you fear getting sick, or if you're going to get worse in your condition, or for example, you fear that it could even cause death, for example. Sometimes in certain situations, like we said that hadith where the Sahabi, he was, asking, he had a wound in his head, and he asked if he could make tayammum, and he said, no, you have to make ghusl, and he actually died from it because it was very cold, and he got maybe infected or whatever the case. So, if you fear some type of harm, or he said, bard shadid, like a very severe cold, if it's like, regularly cold, that doesn't count. It has to be coldness to the point where you can get harm from doing the washing up in that type of weather. Right? So if you fear those type thing, any type of harm, then you're also allowed, even if water is present, to make tayammum. How would you know if it would cause harm or not?
Is this something personal? I guess like...
Well, first, before your personal ijtihad, how would you normally find out if using water would cause you harm?
If you have an open wound, perhaps, or are you just talking about if it's cold?
فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask those with knowledge if you do not know. So in this case, who would be the people of knowledge that we should ask for this condition? If we have a condition and if we use water, it can harm us. Yes, doctor. So if you have something you fear that it might cause harm, or you have an illness or some type of wound or something like that, you consult with a doctor, preferably if it's like a Muslim doctor who's honest, obviously, and dependable and trustworthy. And even if it's a non-Muslim, if he's considered professional and honest, you can also take his opinion. His opinion is valid. Like Imam Ahmed, rahimahullah, used to take the fatawa of the medicine, the doctors from Ahl al-Kitab, the people of the book. He would take their rulings on certain medical issues. Right, so it's permissible as well. A trustworthy doctor tells you, if you do such and such act, it will cause you to get sick, or it'll make your wound worse, right? Or it can cause you some type of harm, and that would be considered sufficient for you to realize it's a harm and transfer to tayammum instead of using water. If there is no doctor available, then you can go to your own opinion, basically, like saying, logically that I have this wound, and if I wash, it's probably going to get affected. Or I was told that if I wash in such and such condition, it might cause me a greater harm, so I can just do tayammum. Right? In that case, you do so. If for some reason you did your own ijtihad and then afterwards the doctor came available to you, like he wasn't available for you to ask before, say it was right before Fajr, early in the morning, or you were traveling someplace, there wasn't a doctor around to ask, and you went and did it, and then afterwards you told the doctor, I have this such and such wound, and I made tayammum, would have been okay if I had made wudu, and he says, yeah, it's okay, it wouldn't have caused you any harm. In that case, some scholars say you can go and repeat the salah, just to be on the safe side, and some say you don't have to, but like I said, it's always better if you're able to, alhamdulillah, to get out of the difference of opinion. You can go ahead and pray, and it will make it up. The next one, he says, أو لخوف العطش على نفسه أو رفيقه أو بهيمته. If you fear thirst for yourself or your companions in travel, or even your riding beasts. So say you have water, but if you use that water, you won't have enough to drink. You might, suffer from being thirsty in your journey. The scholars say it's okay to make tayammum instead. Or say you have enough water for you to drink and make wudu, but not enough for the companions that are traveling with you, and their life also is of value, obviously. So you would, give them the water to drink as well, and then you guys all make tayammum. And the scholars even say, even your riding beast, if there's not sufficient water for the riding beast, you can, make tayammum, all of you, and then have sufficient water for you to drink and the riding beast to drink. So that's the other reason. And in terms, like one of the principles, إذا تعارض حقان حق الخالق وحق المخلوق قدم حق المخلوق. In terms of if there's two rights, the right of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the right of the creation, there's like a difference in this opinion, because for example, making wudu is the right of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what He ordered us to do if we have water available. And then there's another right for the creation, like it would cause harm to yourself or to your companions or to your riding animals. The principle is that you put the right of the people or the creation first, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He forgives, right, between Him and He, His mercy overcomes His anger, but the value of the life of other people takes precedence, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, allows that for us in His mercy. Not, of course His right is greater upon everything upon us, but in terms of when these two types of principles, the principle of saving lives takes precedence in terms of following the original rule of washing up completely. أو لخوف على نفسه أو ماله في طلبه. Or if he worries that seeking water will cause him harm in himself or his property. So say for example, you're traveling in a strange land, and in order for you to go find water, you'd have to leave, your possessions, and they might get stolen. Or you fear that going to get to water, it might cause you harm. Like say there's a beast of prey, like a lion or some type of poisonous snake between you and the well, right? Or maybe there's bandits in the path that will, rob or kill or something like that. In that case, the scholars say that also for the priority of saving your life or saving yourself or your wealth, you can make tayammum, so you can, stay with your wealth or keep your possessions and not put yourself up for harm. أو لتعذر إلا بثمن كثير. Or if he cannot get water except with a high price, right? So say there's a drought or something like that, and the only way you can get water, you found some water and the person wants to sell it for something that will cause you hardship in spending on it. Say he wants like $500 or $1,000 for a bottle of water. Unrealistic, obviously. So you don't have to spend that money to buy the water to make wudu with. You can just make tayammum instead. Some scholars say that if it's within reasonable, it might be more expensive than normal, but it's within reason for yourself, it's better to buy it and make the wudu. But if it's like, unreasonable or too expensive, or it can cause you harm, like you have just enough money to buy yourself a meal, for example, and if you spend all that money, you won't have enough to eat. These type of things. If it's more expensive than normally or necessary, you don't have to buy it. You can make tayammum instead. And all this has to do with the rukhsa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the mercy that He sends upon us, to make it easy for us. Like the Prophet ﷺ said, as a Muslim, we have the whole earth to pray. We don't need any special place to pray, right? Anywhere in the world we can pray, except the certain places that are forbidden, obviously. But in general, the whole earth is a place of prayer, and the earth itself is a means of purification. So even if there's not water available, you can make tayammum, right? If you're sick if you're traveling, if there's no water available, you can always pray. So that's from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He gave us this rukhsah. فإن أمكنه استعماله في بعض بدنه أو وجد ماء لا يكفيه لطهارته استعمله وتيمم للباقي. If he couldn't find enough only for parts of his body to complete the wudu, not the whole wudu, and it's insufficient for purification, like so maybe he can wash the arms and the face but not the feet, for example. According to the Imam, that you can make tayammum, wash as much as you can with the water you have available and make tayammum for the rest, to cover the rest of the bodies. And that's one of the opinions, but Allahu A'lam, the stronger opinion some scholars say is that you have either sufficient amount for wudu or ghusl to have it complete as it's mentioned in the Quran and the Sunnah, and if not, you go to tayammum. There's no in between. There's no dalil or clear evidence that the Prophet ﷺ allowed for us to do part and part, part wudu, part ghusl, and the rest tayammum. Right? So it's either one or the other basically. If you have enough water to make ghusl or wudu, what you need to do, you use that. If there's not enough water, you move on to tayammum. Okay, so all that was the first condition, basically a lack of water or the inability to use the water. Is that clear? The second condition is الثاني دخول الوقت فلا يتيمم لفريضة قبل وقتها ولا نافلة في وقت النهي عنها. The second requirement is the commencement of the prayer time. The time of prayer has to enter before you make tayammum, and this is according to this Imam and other scholars. You'll find some scholars that says that tayammum is just like wudu. It takes the place of wudu basically, so you're in a state of purification. As long as you don't break it, you can make one tayammum and use it for several salawat. But the safer opinion, Wallahu A'lam, is to do it for each salah, each fard. Right? Within that time period you can do the nawafil and the extra. Like say, dhuhr time comes in, you make tayammum, you can pray nafila and you can pray fard for that time period, the fard of dhuhr. Right? Some scholars say if you're traveling and you want to make jam'ah, you make tayammum for each one. Wallahu a'lam. That's the opinion that, for example, each fard has to have its own tayammum. Except they say if you're making up a salat, you can do it within that time. So say for example, you're praying, it's about to be Asr time and you haven't prayed, it's Asr time, you haven't prayed dhuhr, you can pray dhuhr and Asr with that one tayammum. But like I said, some scholars say that you just do one tayammum per each faridah, and it's not, doesn't require much, just one hit, wipe your face, wipe your hands, and you can pray. That has to do with the difference of, is tayammum like removing the hadath, or is it just like istibahat al-fi'al, like the permissibility of doing an action with that. You can be on the safe side, I guess, to just do the tayammum for each of the salawat, for the fard. The next one is the intention, النية. فإن التيمم لنافلة فلم يصلي بها فرضا وإن تيمم لفريضة فله فعل ما شاء من الفرائض ونوافل حتى يخرج وقتها. He said if one makes tayammum for a recommended prayer, a nafila, extra prayer, he must not pray the mandatory prayer with that niyyah. So you should make the niyyah for doing the fard. If you make the niyyah for doing the fard, then you can pray the other prayers with it, it's okay. But not vice versa. So we said that before, always you have the higher intention that covers the lower ones. And the fourth condition is the turab itself. It should be from the earth, right, the soil. The Imam specifically says فَلَا يَتَيَمَّمْ إِلَّا بِتُرَابِ طَاهِرٍ لَهُ غُبَارٍ, that you should not make tayammum except from the wholesome soil that has particles of dust from it, right? That's his opinion. But like we said, other scholars say that anything above the earth is considered sa'idan tayyiban, sa'ada ala al-ard, so it's permissible to use. And especially if you're in situations where there's no, sometimes mountains don't have, it's just stone, there's not like actual dust, or you might be, secluded in a room and there's nothing else except the floor, right, and there's not dust on it. So, as long as it's something above the earth, wallahu alam, that might be the stronger opinion. And if you can't find anything whatsoever, you pray in the state that you're in, and inshallah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts. Is that clear so far? Okay.
What do you mean by dust?
Just like dirt, soil, like the dust that you can, it builds up dust on certain things. That type of dust. Anything basically pure, of pure substance. Obviously, you can't use impurities or najis or something like that. But anything pure from the earth you can use as a means of tayammum. The next part, what invalidates the tayammum. ويبطل التيمم ما يبطل الطهارة أو ما يبطل طهارة الماء. Basically, whatever invalidates the regular tahara, like the wudu or ghusl, invalidates tayammum. So the 7 nullifiers that we talked about, any of those that happen nullifies tayammum obviously as well. That's because it's covering for the wudu, but also in addition to that, خروج الوقت. خروج الوقت means the time has exited, right? And this stems from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ and the Sharia in general. Before, it was actually fard upon all the Muslims for every salat to make wudu. إذا قمتم إلى الصلاة فاغسلوا وجوهكم وأيديكم المرافق وامسحوا برؤوسكم وأرجلكم إلى الكعبين. Right? Every time you get up for salat, you have to wash up. That was the foundation, and then it was abrogated. Some scholars say by the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, in terms he prayed several salawat with one wudu, showing that it's okay now to do that for the wudu and ghusl. But the scholars say that the tayammum was never abrogated, so it stayed upon the asl, which is making it for each salat. So therefore, once the time of the salat is gone, you have to make the tayammum is invalid according to this madhab. والقدرة على استعمال الماء, the ability to use water. So if you have tayammum and water is present, your tayammum becomes invalid. You have to wash with the water. And the Prophet ﷺ said in a hadith that you can make tayammum, if you don't find water to make tayammum, even if it's for 10 years. But as soon as you find the water, wash yourselves with it. So some scholars derive from that hadith that basically if water is present, the tayammum becomes invalidated, even if you're in the salat. So if you're in the middle of salat and somebody comes and says that you're, water, we found some water, you break the salat, make wudu and start the salat again. The Malikiyya and the Shafi'iyya, I believe they say that you don't have to. You can continue and finish your salat with that tayammum was valid. The ones that say that tayammum was like a alternative to the water. But to be safe, break it and wash up according to this hadith. And then you can continue on with your salat. And that's what he says, وَإِنْ كَانَ فِي صَلَاةٍ, the Imam says, even if you're in the middle of salat. So that's the kitab of tayammum. Basically, those are the 4 main conditions that you have to have for your tayammum to be correct. And it's, from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon this ummah. Alhamdulillah, we don't have to put ourselves into destruction. Like if you're sick or if you're getting sick, we have this other alternative. Allah says, وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ, don't kill yourselves, right? And that can happen either with directly somebody trying to commit suicide and killing themselves, or indirectly, if you know a certain action can bring about death or harm, you're not supposed to put that into, yourself into that situation, right? So if you have an alternative, do the alternative. If you have any guys questions, Alhamdulillah, we almost finished Kitab al-Tahara. We got one more bab. It's a little bit technical, but it's good to know. It's actually about the menstruation and the postpartum birth, but obviously you're going to have wives or you have moms or sisters or something like that. Women might ask you in the future, so it's a chapter that's important to understand, inshallah.